My oral presentation, I had a paper, but I'm not going to read it, begins by a question. How many shapes has a star? Indeed, there is no dialogue if we don't begin with a question. And putting questions is to embark upon a quest. Upon a quest means that questioning is not the same as curiosity. Curiosity carries old ladies to pick at the doors, for instance. But embarking upon a quest carries us to higher things. And that's precisely how Aristotle, when once for all in the book called afterwards Metaphysics, started the book by saying, all men desire to know. As a matter of fact, the Greek term used for Egerstein means more than desire, means have a urge to know. And the context, the next sentences of the Metaphysics, tell us that, all men have a urge to know the ground, to search for the ground. And that's precisely what Franz Rosenzweig, as a philosopher, did. He was searching for the ground, and so I'm going to present human experience and theological diversity, the contribution of Franz Rosenzweig. I want to call your attention to this German and Jewish philosopher. Well, there is some poetic justice that myself, coming from a Catholic university and a Christian, well, a bad Christian, sure, doing a presentation about a German Jewish thinker. That's important because it's already to embark upon a dialogue with the other. And that has as much to do with the mark of Franz Rosenzweig, of what he called his anti-totalitarian new thinking, of his account of revelation, as a quote from the Harbor, with his reflections on finitude and the temporal contours of human experience, and with his dialogical philosophy, his presentation of dialogue as a relation between I and you, or thou, as constitutive of selfhood and community. He wrote some 100 years ago. In these 100 years, he has become acknowledged by foremost thinkers. For instance, Emmanuel Levinas, in page 14 of Totality and Infinity, his major work, Levinas says something like this. I do not quote Rosenzweig, says Levinas, because it's totally present in my mind, totality and infinity. Or for instance, Karl Löwit, the former assistant of Martin Heidegger, and that afterwards criticized and, from my point of view, justly his former master Heidegger. If Heidegger, wrote Karl Löwit, ever had a contemporary, it was Rosenzweig. Why? Let me pick one of his sentences for one of his shorter books. He wrote this: each person has two names, a family name, that is his past, and a proper name, that is his future. And as you can see, that's important for everything Rosenzweig wanted to tell us, because dialogue begins inside ourselves. Dialogue is not entering upon just a communication act. Dialogue is about, in the search for a ground, to enter in touch with the other, to put questions, to answer, to correct our answers, and the other has 1 month and 2 years, which is a good idea because we must listen more than we must speak. And that's what Franz Rosenzweig has done. He lived in dangerous years. The years of living dangerously. Not only World War I. He was a soldier, a German officer, in France, in Serbia, then in Poland. But after the war, with the crisis, with the political crisis in Germany. And in this illustration, which by the way is the German military postcard, and I put it here intently because in the last year of the war, he was writing these postcards to his mother and to his friends with small notes, and when he came back to home, he collected the postcards and wrote his opus magnum, the Star of Redemption. But of course, 4 years of war made Rosenzweig a different person. For instance, when he came back to home, he quitted the academic career. He said something like, I'm no more interested in pursuing the academic career. We may guess why. He had seen too much violence, too much suffering to just give classes and teach people. And that's why he composed, or that's when he composed the Star of Redemption. The first edition was published in 1921, Der Stern der Erlösung. And then, over the years, editions, translations in several languages kept on appearing. And translation is an important issue to Rosenzweig. Because translation is not only putting one language to another. Actually, thinking is already translating. When we think, when we try to communicate, we are already translating the inner movements of our spirit to a particular language, our. And the challenge of the translator, he himself, with Martin Buber, was a translator of the scriptures from Hebrew to German, of almost of the Torah, what we also call the Old Testament. And for him it was very important that all language could converge with this inner learning of translation into a only language, not an artificial one, but the real dialogical language. At the beginning, not at the beginning, after the beginning of, after the first sentences of the Star of Redemption, is, as I have already said, is opus magnum. He writes something like that. He who questions the totality of being, as is the case here in the book, refutes the unity of thinking. He who does this throws the gauntlet to the whole venerable brotherhood of philosophers, from Ionia to Jena. Jena means Hegel. Ionia means, of course, the beginning of philosophy. So, he has a big challenge, Franz Rosenzweig. He was a specialist of Hegel. His doctoral dissertation is about Hegel and the state. He was a disciple of Friedrich Meinecke, a philosophical historian of the German Academy that contributed to a neo-Hegelian revival in the beginning of the 20th century. And he was a very good knower also of Schelling, not only the first, but also the late, the second Schelling, which who has very improbable disciples nowadays, for instance, like Slavoj Žižek, the Slovenian author. But perhaps in a primary way, I put there that Rosenzweig, I wrote there that Rosenzweig must break away from two different standpoints. The standpoints of the German idealists, the system of the absolute. Because those systems, they were good at philosophical conceptualization, but they were not so good at narratives of human experience. Too much abstraction, not enough temporality. Well, what he called the absolutism of experience. On the other way, he was very well, he knew very well Kierkegaard. He even learned Danish for reading some of Kierkegaard's books that were not yet translated in 1910, around that time, not translated into German. He was a very good, he read Nietzsche a lot, because he preferred an honest atheist to an hypocritical believer. Marx, and all these, what I call dissident philosophers, dissidents in respect to Hegel, Fichte, Schelling. Well, they have good narratives of human experience, but not good systems, because they did not realize the task of philosophy. And what is the task of philosophy? For Rosenzweig. He tells us that the real starting point for the knowledge of the whole, being in general, is something simple. Man, in the plainest sense, something definite and individual. The particular man, living in a particular place, in a particular time, in a particular society. Man in the middle of things, as he says, not at the beginning, not at the end. Man in the middle of things. That is the beginning of his thought. And we must address this starting point of Rosenzweig, as he does, with a meditation upon death. Because he said that, well, philosophers had a sort of trick to not speak about that. Death is the metaphor of nothing. The metaphor that our being is as a shadow of nothing that goes with it. And this human experience of the fear of death, not the fear of death in general, but the fear of our death, the existentialists, of course, will say a lot of this. Rosenzweig is also a sort of co-existentialist thinker. Co-existentialist because he's always thinking existence with the other, not solitary existence, as we have already heard today. And he treats death as the rootness of all death, and the nothing as the rootness of all particular beings. Well, what's happening? It's not the effect of your... it should be here, but... well, let's start again. Sorry. Something happened, which is strange. But this is one of the technical reasons why I'm working from my son's computer. And my son is an informatic engineer. They use Ubuntu, which is an horrible system. So it disconfigures the darkness. Not Microsoft, okay. Let's see. I hope so. Okay, let's go over this. We know already the importance of death that confronts ourselves with our nothing. And that brings me to the last part of my presentation, which means theological diversity, because Rosenzweig asked us to devote particular attention to the reversals, Umkehr, German, the upside down, which particular beings must undergo in order to step into reciprocal relations. We have already spoken today about dialogue. What Rosenzweig says is that dialogue only begins when we open space inside ourselves. We must get out of our own identity to speak and to listen to the other. Before that, there is no dialogue. Dialogue is not just a communicative act, like the Frankfurt School, for instance, deals with the issue. Dialogue is this quest for the ground, and my identity itself is dialogical. He was someone able, I put this, being a Jewish believer, he was very much able to appreciate authors like Castro, who, by the way, wrote the Castro more or less at the same time as the Star of Redemption. And he said something like this: I never read a book that reminded me so much of the Bible as the Castro. Well, at least all the questions of the Bible are in the Castro, not the answers. Because precisely to those questions, Rosenzweig gives the answer of revelation. And so, he complements the discursive knowledge of the path from isolation to relatedness, as he offers in the first and the second part of the Star of Redemption, with a vision that grasps the unity of the whole itself, the figure of the star. The star, of course, the star of Abraham, of Genesis 15. The star, in Hebrew, Magen, that means also the shield. The star of Abraham, the founder of the free, or recognized by the free monotheists religions, and that gives a wellness to his discourse. And his book, the sixth point star, you remember perhaps that I entitled my presentation, How Many Shapes Has a Star? So this is one of the possible shapes. This is Rosenzweig's shape. He sees the star like this. The elements, the primordial elements of God, world and human being, and the relationships. That is the dialogical elements of creation, revelation, and redemption. But the important point that he wants to stress is that we only have creation, revelation, and redemption when each of the primordial elements does something of a reversal, something of the umkehr, something that is opening space inside himself to enter into relatedness with the other. That's Rosenzweig, and that's what Levinas, and Paul Ricoeur, and Gershom Scholem, and Leo Strauss, and I could go with this collection of big 20th century authors saw in him. We could have a Christian translation of the Star of Redemption. The Star of Redemption is told from a Jewish standpoint, but it is not a Jewish book in the sense of delivering specific Jewish doctrine. It is a philosophical book. So it can be read with, I think there is something more, but let's see if those will do. Well, that's too bad, but okay, you see, creation, revelation, and redemption with some problems with the letters. And you see here how is the message of Jewish theology can be transformed in the message of Christian theology. And I think there is another problem with the image. It is missing the five-pointed star of Islam. But you see also we can have an Islamic translation of his main points. I go over this, and then to finish, I would like to answer the question, but what is the task of philosophy? Why do we lose time with philosophy? Because, Rosenzweig said, we do not live to produce or to make books or papers or conferences. We do books or papers or conferences because we want to enhance life. The last sentence of the Star of Redemption is into life. Into life, that is, into the concrete, into the concrete tasks that are urged upon us by the ground, the revelation of the ground we saw. And those concrete tasks are the tasks of education, of communication, of politics, of art, of social movements. That was what Rosenzweig wanted to tell us. Thank you.